Hey everybody, this is Bishop Nectarios, and I am the host of Our Ancient Faith. Today's topic is going to be a martial arts topic, and I wanted to comment on something that I've been seeing all over the internet. Excuse me. The technique is called the rear naked choke. It is a staple of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and I see a lot of martial artists from other styles trying to come up with ways to get out of this thing when it's put in. And they're doing the technique wrong in the first place. Um, and that bothers me because the masters are passing this off as if it's some sort of ultimate escape from the technique. But then you see the reaction video, and some MMA guys tried to implement the techniques as shown, and it's revealed that's not how that works. One of the first things I notice is they go to demo this escape, and their arm is not cinched correctly. They're trying to put the neck against this part of your arm. So all you got to do is turn your head and you can breathe. The neck is supposed to be here in the crook. And the second part, either they'll try to do this or they'll try to do this where there's no strength, but instead of putting it in, and they'll try to come on top of the head or behind the head instead of coming behind the head and resting in. And then all you're supposed to do is tighten up to cinch the rear naked choke. And I know there's other variations. That's the one I was shown. That's the one that I tend to use. But what they do, like I said, is incorrect head positioning, hand positioning. They don't cinch the choke up. And because of that, the instructor gets to be a little bit squirrely. They get to move around within the choke. And that choke will take you down. Biggest dude on the planet, littlest dude on the planet, doesn't matter. Because it's a choke that restricts the flow of blood to the brain. Um, you're done. 6 seconds or less on average, you're done. And when we're sparring, rolling in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, we have a tradition of tapping when our opponent literally has us locked down. When we're done, when they've beaten us, we tap to let them know, okay, that's it. I've hit my limit. Okay. The roll ends, and then you go again. In the school that I go to, it's customary for us to roll for a certain time period, and we can do as much rolling as we want in that time period. And when that's done, the timer goes off, and we switch partners so that we can roll with different people and build up experience with different heights, with different weights, with different levels of strength. Um, and the rear naked choke for me has a lot of meaning because when I started Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, there were two techniques that were constantly being used on me, and I didn't have any kind of idea of how to get out of them. The first was arm bars because they understood that I did not know how to get out of arm bars. They used them a lot. So I went to my professor, whose name is Pat, and I asked him, what do I do about this? And he showed me some things, and then he drilled me on some things. And when we got to rolling, I started putting them into practice. Well, a few months down the road, I got pretty good at getting out of arm bars, so they started trying to put on the rear naked choke. And to do that effectively, you have to do what's called taking the back. Um, and that's simply positioning yourself during a sparring session so that you are on their back or are behind them so that you can put the choke on correctly. Um, and these masters are passing this stuff off like it's going to work, and it doesn't. Now, the part that is confusing me a little bit, the part that's kind of irritating me, is there are counters for the rear naked choke, ways to get out of it, even once it's cinched and you're on the ground. You have to move fast and you have to be very proficient at it, but there are counters. Why wouldn't you go to a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school and learn how the technique is properly applied and what the counter is for that technique. And then go to your students and teach it. Because if you try to teach someone, what's going to happen is in a proper rolling or sparring match, your opponent is going to take the back and he's going to cinch the choke, and you're going to hit that immediate panic as the flow of blood gets cut off to the brain. You can't breathe. The choke is very effective. Very effective. I don't care how tough you are, you're going to go down if that choke gets locked in on you. You have a very short window that you can use to escape that choke, and it is not that complicated to put on. As a matter of fact, I saw a video a few months back of this guy just being a jerk in the subway. He was harassing people and threatening people, and he was taking his bicycle that he had on the subway for some weird reason, and he was like trying to hit people with his bicycle. And this guy, fairly big guy too, comes up behind him, and he puts the rear naked choke on the guy, and he's out like that. He lowers him to the ground. He's not a jerk, doesn't throw the guy on the floor, but he makes sure the guy can't get back up when he does come around until I guess it would be transit authority or something like that comes on and takes the guy off the subway. Now this was a guy that was just way out of line. He was a fairly big dude, and he got taken out like he didn't know anything about fighting. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. By the way, I don't know. But the technique worked, and it worked fast. When the choke is put on you, you have to immediately overcome that panic. And that takes a second. And then you got to try to use your techniques and hope that you can get out of it. Again, if you haven't drilled in it, it's not going to come naturally in the middle of the moment. So what are you going to do? You're going to either tap or you're going to pass out. It happens to all of us at some point in time. There was one guy who got put in the choke, not in the class. I roll with a bunch of different people, as many as I can, because training partners are really hard to find that are not dependable but available. And this guy, he tried to tap, but he was just for some reason positioned very strangely, and the guy passed out. And immediately, once his opponent figured out, no, this guy's out. This guy's is unconscious. He immediately lets the guy out of the choke. And in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, they elevate the legs so that blood flow will go back towards the brain, I guess. They explained it, but that's not my area. So when we're rolling, everybody wants to be a good sparring partner for each other so that you help each other learn. And guys that like to smash people into the mats don't last too long, because sooner or later someone will educate them as to the appropriate way to behave when you're training, especially if you get one of the guys who like to smash on lower belts. They're so excited they got their new whatever, blue, purple belt, whatever, and they want to go over and they want to smash on everyone else and show just how skilled they are. Sooner or later, a higher belt's going to take notice that you're being way too rough and aggressive, and they're going to put you in your place. But in general, most guys I've met are really good guys. They roll careful. They don't try to hurt anybody. They're very respectful, responsible. Um, so I'm just warning everybody now. Most of these things don't work. They're not put on correctly. They're not cinched correctly. And if they're put on properly, most of these martial arts masters aren't going to be able to escape from it. My best advice is do your research. Look up the technique, because the rear naked choke can be a dangerous technique. This is a choke. You are being strangled. And it's a hard technique to put on if you don't know it, and it's easy to overdo. And learn the counters properly and bring that into your training. One of my favorite YouTube personalities is the karate nerd because he goes around to other styles, and instead of attempting to decide which style is superior, he takes the lessons from those styles back into his karate so that his karate becomes stronger with practice and with the inclusion of other philosophies and points of view. So, this is what you want to do. You're not wanting to learn ways that don't work to escape from a choke. Learn from the source because the people who invented the thing know how to get around the thing. And then bring that back into your style and have that be the foundation of your technique, real technique. So, we got more videos coming out soon. For right now, that's it. Everybody have a good night. I'll talk to you again next time.